Do you have plans on building your fall capsule wardrobe? Well, I made item number 1 in my 12-piece fall capsule wardrobe, and I'm going to be sharing that with you, which is the animal print blouse using Simplicity 3002. So if you want to know all the pattern review, the behind the scenes, and a sew along, then please continue to watch. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's your girl Rochelle from Rochelle.Handmade.Designs. In this video, I'm going to be sharing behind the scenes, a pattern review, and the sew along for what I have on Simplicity 3002. Now, before we get started, I'm just going to tell you to go get you a quick snack, something to drink, grab your notebooks just to take a little bit of notes on this pattern review, which is going to be short, sweet, and to the point. I'm going to give you the deets and the news that you can use on this video as well. So let's go ahead and get into the pattern review. All right, so this is item number 1 of the 12-piece fall capsule wardrobe. The pattern that I use, I'm going to put it up on the screen because I have it in PDF. And it is Simplicity 3002. Now let's go ahead and get into the pattern description. So for this pattern, it is a button front blouse. It has a collar. It also has inverted pleats on the sleeves. And then you have the options of either a button cuff or a sleeve band. Now I did view B. It also features a hidden placket for view B, but view A is a button down style top. A couple of things about this pattern is it has a front, a side front, and a back. So most button down shirts does not have that side front, but I like the details of that side front as well. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the skill level. So in terms of the skill level, this pattern is rated as average or intermediate. Do I feel this pattern is intermediate or average? Absolutely. And I'll tell you guys why I feel that a intermediate or average to sewish should be the one that's sewing this pattern. Now, can a beginner do it? Yes. But I'm going to say when it comes to that hidden placket, there's a reason why I'm saying that this pattern is an average to sew pattern. All right. Let's talk about notions used. So in terms of the notions used for this pattern, because I did view B, you're going to need 6 5/8" buttons. Now, if you are doing view A, you're going to need 5 1/2" buttons for this one. So, but because I did view B, I just needed 6 buttons and some interfacing. That's the only notions that you need for this pattern. Let's talk about fabric. So in terms of fabric, I use stash fabric. I was really going for a better drape of a rayon challis, but because I'm participating in Jacinta, Pink Mimosa by Jacinta, or Jacinta's challenge Whole 30, and I'm almost there to my 30 yards before I could buy some fabric, but I'm really focusing on using things from my stash. So all the fabric for my 12-piece fall capsule wardrobe is definitely from my stash. I did not have to go to Joann or Fashion Fabric Clubs online or to Atlanta, which I do have a trip planned coming up in the upcoming year before Atlanta Frock to purchase some fabric. So at that time, I will make a big purchase of fabric. But for right now, we just trying to, downsize our stash, all right? But the fabric that I use is from Afric Clothing Store, which is a African print style store. It's online. I'm gonna go ahead and put up the link here so you're able to see her website. It's africclothingstore.com. She has fabulous prints as well. I purchased this print, I wanna say about 2-ish years ago, I think. Because this will play into something that's coming up next year. This would be one of the pieces that plays into that's coming up next year, which I will tell you about that collection later on, okay? Further down in the year of next year, all right? But this is from Afric Clothing Store. It is 100% cotton, and this is a nice, lovely animal print fabric, all right? Let's talk about the pattern pieces. All right, so in terms of pattern pieces for this pattern, you're going to need 9 pattern pieces. So you're gonna need pattern piece. So if you are doing view A, you need pattern piece 1 through 7, and then 8 and 9. So 8 is your sleeves, and I believe 9 is your cuffs. If I'm looking, yes, 9 is your cuff. And then if you are doing view, so 9 pattern pieces there. If you are doing view B, which is the hidden placket, you're gonna need pattern piece 1 through 7, and then pattern piece number 10 and 11. So pattern piece number 10 is your sleeves, and pattern piece 11 is your sleeve band. So no matter which view you do, you're going to need 9 pattern pieces for this pattern. All right, let's talk about pattern sizing. So in terms of this pattern, it comes in 3 pattern envelopes, which tells me it's size inclusive, baby. So the first pattern envelope is size 10 to 18. The second pattern envelope is 20W to 28W, and the third pattern envelope is size 30W to 38W. Now the size that I cut is a size 18 for the body, well, all the way down. However, I needed to make modifications at the hips. Now, size 18 in the bust fits me. I did not make any modifications to the bust or the waist. However, I did need to make a modification to the hips. Now, because this top hits right at the hips, I didn't want it to be straight, great bust and waist, and then at the hips, it's just too tight. So I went ahead and blended from the bust all the way down to the waist. All the way down to the hips. I had to add 1.5 inches to the side seam, which is pattern piece number 4, as well as the back, which gave me a total all the way around hip of adding 6 inches to the hips to where it fits me and it's not tight. And I could wear this. This would be a nice work blouse as well. So that's what I did. I did not make any modifications to the waist, any modifications to the bust, just the modifications to the hip. And what I did was I created a straight line all the way across right where the curve started. All right, so I created that line, made it across, and then sized it up from there. And I know you're wondering, like, hey, Rochelle, how in the world do you size patterns up? I have a complete video on how I size patterns up. It's called Let's Size It Up. And then I also have one with Figure It Out, right? So moving into some other sew-alongs, I'll probably show that. However, if I'm going to start doing channel membership, and in that channel membership, each month I plan on giving you a sew-along, and I will definitely show you how to size the pattern up, okay? Because it takes a long time to do it in every single sew-along here, and I have a video like that that's free for you to watch, but I plan on doing channel membership, so just stay tuned for that as well. All right, I talked about the size that I cut. Let's talk about modifications. Did I make any modifications to this pattern? Outside of sizing it up, no, I did not make any modifications to this pattern because I feel like there's no need to. Now, if I was to make a modification, I would add a sash and some belt loops on the side to have a sash in the front. I think that would be cute. If I make this pattern again with the button cuffs, I wouldn't do that. But if I make it again with a hidden placket, that's something that I may do. So if you decide to make this and you want to do that sash, the only thing you need to do is make you some carriers. I have a video for that. I'll go ahead and put it up here and drop it in the description box below. Make sure you are opening up the description box below because everything that I link to is definitely in the description box below. You don't want to miss out on all the different references that I tell you in my videos. All right. Also, while we're here, let me take a pause right quick. If you have not done so already, for me to continue bringing you guys sew along, donate to the channel. All right. Go ahead and hit that super thanks. You could donate whatever amount is suitable for you. It keeps me going on the channel of providing more sew-alongs for you. All right. So if you have it in your heart, donate to the channel. And I thank you so much because everything you donate comes back to the channel for me to provide more things for you guys to see. All right, moving along. Let's talk about, did it look like the photos or the drawing on the pattern envelope? Yes, it does. So the young lady on View B with like the floral print or whatever, I think that's like a floral print or a flowery print. It looks exactly like hers. Like, honestly, it looks exactly like hers. So I think it came out wonderful. If I do say so myself, I love it. And I'm going to be making another one because it's already cut. It's already sized up. It just needs some fabric for me to make one in a solid color. All right. But yes, it does look like the photo or the drawing in the on the pattern envelope. Let's go ahead and talk about, are the instructions easy to follow? Okay, so let me give you my honest opinion, and I'm gonna put, I show this in the sew along, so I'm not gonna put it up on the screen right now, but I'm gonna definitely, it's in the sew along. So on step number 11 through 14, if you are doing View B, it talks about the hidden placket. Now, the hidden placket section is completely, The instructions is totally a mess, a hot mess, a bad mess, a complete cluster, you know what. But anyway, at any rate, I decided, I was like, I have done a hidden placket before. What pattern did I use for the hidden placket? And I went to my closet and went to my blouses, y'all, because I got a lot of them, and went to Simplicity 8889, which is a Mimi G pattern for a hidden placket button down shirt. And Brittany J. Jones does the sew along for it. And I was like, let me go to this video. I went through the video and I was like, I remember how to do this. And that's what I did, okay? So what I did was I did not do the placket exactly like they say in the instructions because it's off. It is not going to come out when you say make an accordion style placket. What? What the heck does that mean? I know what an accordion is, but make an accordion placket? It didn't make sense. So after watching Brittany J. Jones' video for Mimi G's pattern, Simplicity 8889, I was like, all right, Rochelle, you know how to do this. Let's get it. And that's what I'm going to be showing you guys in the sew along. So it's similar to Brittany J. Jones. Credit where credit's due for sure. I'm not taking nothing from Brittany, not taking anything from Mimi, but I'm gonna say if you are doing a hidden placket, make a note, put it down in your notebook, put a reference to go to Brittany J. Jones' video for Mimi G's pattern, Simplicity 8889. For me, that is the best tutorial for a hidden placket. Now, these instructions for a hidden placket, it's not it, okay? I'm just gonna be honest with you right there. Even if you are doing View A, that whole placket situation sucks. It sucks, all right? So I don't know who writes the instructions, but hit up Simplicity and be like, could y'all please do something better with that hidden placket area, which is step number 11 through 14. You're welcome. Let's go ahead and talk about likes and dislikes. So, there's really no dislikes for this top outside of the instructions for the pattern. However, because I found another reference for you guys to do the hidden placket area, even though I show you, but I've provided that reference in the sew along, I'm gonna say that there's still no dislikes for this, okay? It's all love. Like, I enjoyed sewing this pattern. I'm going to sew it again. I think I look fabulous in it, and I'm gonna rock this shirt till the wheels fall off, okay? So there's really no dislikes for this pattern. It's all love, okay? It's all love, all right? Let's talk about first time experiences. So, I don't have any first time experiences. I have done button down shirts so many times. I have so many of them in my wardrobe, so no first time experiences at all. Would I recommend this pattern to others? Absolutely, which is why I did a sew along for this one, because I've seen so many of you guys was like, oh, I got to get that pattern, Simplicity 3002. When I did the drop, which this pattern came out in, I believe it was either spring, summer, I think of this year. And when this pattern came out, I was just like, yes, baby, I got to get that pattern. So I picked it up and I slotted it on my list to do for fall when they're in the store, all right? And I know another pattern that you guys are looking at is Simplicity 3032. I'm doing that pattern in a green button-down shirt because I need a green in my wardrobe, so stay tuned for that as well. All right, so would I sew this pattern again? I already said that, but let me say it again. Absolutely, all right? But yes, I will sew this pattern again. It will be coming up again in the new year to sew this pattern for a different collection that I'm gonna be doing at the top of the year, all right? Let's talk about my pattern rating before getting you over to the sew along. So for this pattern, y'all know, a 5 out of 5. Although the pattern instructions for the placket sucks, this pattern is still super good to sew, size inclusive, love it. 5 out of 5 for Simplicity 3002. All right, so that's it for the sit down pattern review. I hope you enjoyed this pattern review. So let's go ahead and get over to, now before I get you over to the sew along, let me say Beat the Clock is coming back next month in the month of November, November 16th, which is a Saturday. I am bringing my girly from the UK to the channel. Yes. So I have Shells from Shelzcreates. She's going to be joining me for some Beat the Clock. November 16th at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I will put up the thumbnail here so you're able to see it. So make sure you are showing both of us some love. November 16th. And of course, leading up to that time, I will definitely be sharing that with you. All right, so let's go ahead and get over to the sew along now.
I look like a bag of money I'm on. They wanna know what I'm on. She got diamonds dancing on my neck. That is the vibe I'm on. Drip way too lit. Who gon' check? You can tell me no.
Where's Da Vinci?
Hey you guys, let's go ahead and get into the next sew along. I know it's been a minute since I did a sew along, but I wanted to get into this sew along for you guys. I'm just gonna go ahead and address it now. I need to redo my nails. So we're not here for the nails, we're here for the sew along. So don't comment and tell me something about my nails because we know that I have like 3 of them that needs to be redone. All right, so the sew along that we're gonna be doing is for a button down shirt. And this would be great if you are working in an office or anything like that. It would be great for that. This is Simplicity 3002. Even if you work from home, you could definitely do this as well. Now, remind you that a lot of my patterns are PDF simply because I don't want to wait for them to make it to Joanne. So I'm just going to be showing you guys the PDF. I'm going to put it up on the screen, but it's pretty much the same thing. The only difference is the pattern envelope and the back of the pattern envelope is also on the same page. And then I'm just gonna walk you through the instructions that I have, all right? So now that we talked about that, let's go ahead and talk about the toolkit. Now you guys know I have a complete video of the toolkit. I'm gonna put it up here so you're able to see it. In addition, drop it in the description box below. It's on all of my sew alongs. It's going to have that toolkit video link that you could actually check out. All right. So in terms of notions, for this project, now I am doing view B on the pattern. You're only going to need 6 5/8" buttons. You can use regular buttons. You can use decorative buttons. Now for me, I don't know exactly which color I want to use, but I have a brown pair of buttons that I'm going to use 6 or a black, or I may, mix and match. I don't know which one I'm going to use yet, but that's the only notions that you're going to need for this project. So let's go ahead and talk about the pattern instructions. All right, so let's talk about the pattern instructions. So in terms of the pattern instructions, I'm going to talk about the pattern pieces here shortly and the cutting layout. Now I am doing view B, so I made sure that I'm going to put this up on the screen so you're able to see it, but I'm going to enlarge it actually so you're able to see it. But I'm going to make sure that my pattern pieces are turned with the wrong side of the fabric as it shows in the cutting layout. All right. So make sure you are looking at the cutting layout as well. I'm going to show you my fabric and all that good stuff here shortly. But jumping down to the pattern instruction, make sure you know what the sewing directions means. Make sure you look at that. What we're going to do, this is, I don't know if you have done a classic button down shirt, but I'm going to walk you through as much as possible. Now, I'm not going to show a lot of the sewing machine. I'm just going to show the sewing machine where it's needed. All right. So we're going to stay stitch the front. We're going to make sure that we stitch the side front to the front. We're going to do all those necessary steps of adding the placket, the left and the right placket, because you have a left front band and a right front band, which will be your pattern piece 3 and 4. We're going to do all of that. We're going to make sure that we are doing our placket area. We're going to do the back in step number 17, add the collar band, add the sleeves. Yes, I'm just kind of paraphrasing this for you because I'm going to walk you through it, okay? We're going to do the sleeves, the cuffs. We're going to attach the sleeves. I'm not doing view A, so my sleeves will not have a cuff. However, it will have a sleeve band because I have a lot of tops with the cuffs. So I'm trying to do a lot more tops because if I have to go back to an office, I want to make sure I have classic button down shirts as well, which was one of the goals this year, to make more classic button down shirt. So that's what we have there. And then we're going to hem and then we're going to be done. All right. So that is the pattern instructions. Let me go ahead and move this out the way and let's go ahead and talk about the pattern pieces. So in terms of the pattern pieces, you're going to need 9 pattern pieces. So the first pattern piece is pattern piece number 1, which is your front. You need to cut 2 of fabric. Now this is my fabric. I have showed you, I showed you my fall sewing plans and I shared all the fabrics that I'm going to be using for this entire fall sewing wardrobe that I'm going to be creating. Now this is 100% cotton from Afrik Clothing Store. So that's what I'm going to be using as well. All right. But this is my animal print button down shirt that I shared with you in that video. I'm going to put it up here so you're able to see it. And also it's going to be dropped in the description box below as well as on the end screen. But once again, this is pattern piece number 1. The front, you need to cut 2. Next pattern is pattern piece number 2, which is your right front band. You need to cut 1 of fabric and interface 1. So I'm going to make sure I interface this before I start sewing, but I just wanted to show you this. I'm going to have it interfaced before I start sewing. All right. But this is pattern piece number 2, your right front band. You need to cut 1 of fabric and interface 1. Next pattern is pattern piece number 3, your left front band. You need to cut 1 of fabric and interface 1. Pattern piece is pattern piece number 4, your side front for both views. Most of these are for both views, but like I said, I'm doing view B. So this is your side front. You need to cut 2 of fabric. Next up is pattern piece number 5, which is your back. You need to cut 1 on the fold of fabric. Make sure you transfer your darts as well as your dots and notches. All right. So make sure you cut pattern piece number 5, your back on the fold. Next up is pattern piece number 6, your collar. You need to cut 2 of fabric and interface 1. Next up is your collar band, which is pattern piece number 7. You need to cut 2 of fabric and interface 1. Next up is pattern piece number 10, which are your sleeves, and you need to cut 2. Now, if you are doing view A, you need to cut pattern piece number 8 and 9. So I'm going to grab the instructions for you real quick. And if you are doing view A, pattern piece number 8 is your sleeves and pattern piece number 9 is your cuffs. So you would not do pattern piece 10 and 11 because that's the sleeve and the sleeve band if you are doing view B. So let me rephrase that. If you are doing view A with the cuff, you need to cut pattern piece 1 through 7 and then 8 and 9. 8 is your sleeves, 9 is your cuffs. If you are doing view B, you need to cut pattern piece number 1 through 7 and then 10 and 11. 10 would be your sleeve. And then pattern piece number 11 would be your sleeve band. And on your sleeve band, you need to cut 2 of fabric and interface 2. All right. Now, those are all the pattern pieces that you will need in order to construct your blouse. So let's go ahead and get right on into the sewing. So let's go ahead and start with the sewing. Go ahead and grab pattern piece number 1, which would be your front. All right. Now, I'm going to grab the instructions. I'm going to try to walk you through as much as possible. But you guys know how I do. So go to step number 1. And some of this I have already done off camera to kind of condense this video down as much as possible. But this is pattern piece number 1. Now, before I cut my fabric, I did make adjustments to my fabric and my pattern. You're going to have to make those adjustments yourself. Once again, I am cutting a size 18, but I think I should have... might as well just say that I cut a size 18, but I graded to a 20 at the hips, okay? 20W, which would be a different size pattern. I know you're probably gonna ask me, how did you grade? I just made sure to grade to what I needed at the hips. The waist is gonna be a little bit big because I am not a 37-inch waist. My waist is a 34, but I'm fine with, you know, that extra room and that extra comfort there. However, I needed to grade out to the hips, and that's what I did on my pattern, which you will see that on pattern piece number 4, okay, and pattern piece number 5. All right, so anyway, so I already did that on mine. So what I'm gonna do is put this aside, grab pattern piece number 1. And what I did, now one thing I wanna mention before I go any further, you will see a little color coding label right here. And the reason why is because I need to make sure I know what side is the right side and the wrong side. Now, if I was to use my disappearing ink marker, I could somewhat see, but in the places where it's black, I cannot see that. So I wanted to be able to see, so that's why I use the color coding label. You could pick this up from like a Staples, you could pick it up from Walmart, and it has 3 different colors. So I marked mine in an orange so I'm able to see what side is the wrong side versus what side is the right side. All right. Now I'm going to put my instructions off to the side because I already know what I'm doing, but I just have it handy for you guys. All right. So the first step in step number 1, it tells you to stay stitched. You're going to stay stitched from your shoulder to the front. Okay. Do not stay stitched from the front to your shoulder. You want to stay stitched on both front pattern pieces from your shoulder to the front. After you do that, you have 2 notches right here on the side. You want to go from the top to the bottom. Stay stitched. Stay stitched is done at a 1/2 inch seam allowance. So make sure you do that. Now I have already done that on both of mine. I'm going to bring it up so you are able to see that. And I have done that on both of my pattern pieces, okay? So the next step you're going to do is attach your side front to your front, all right? So grab pattern piece number 4. And like I said, I have already sized my pattern piece up, so you're just gonna need to have to do that with yours. If you need to size it up, you can size it up at the front, you can size it up at the side front, you can size it up at the back, whatever works for you. I have already done mine for the side, front, and back. So I sized up all 3 pattern pieces for what I needed to do. All right. Now, this is the back. I need to turn it over to the front. Okay. And I'm going to place it like this because I'm looking at that portion that I stay stitched that have the notches. Okay. I did the same thing to my back. It's color coded, right? And what I'm going to do is with right sides together, I have 2 notches right here, and I'm going to match up those notches and pin. So I'm going to match up that first notch and pin, match up the second notch and pin. And then you want to pin all the way down to the bottom. And then just make sure you pin all the way up. So go ahead and pin the side front to the front now. All right, so now that I have it pinned, what you're going to do, you have this space right here that goes over your bust. Now, if you notice that it's not going to give, you're going to have to be pulling. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it, and not on pattern piece number 4, which is your side front. On pattern piece number 1, I'm going to kind of clip just a little bit so it could give. Now, do not clip through your stitching, but I'm going to make a couple of clips. Then that way it gives to where the side front fits on the front, and I'm not pulling whatsoever, okay? So I made a couple of clips to where it'll give, and I'm able to place pattern piece number 4, the side front, onto the front with no issues, okay? So if you can see that it matches up with no problem, I'm not going to be pulling or anything when I get to the sewing machine, okay? All right, so now that I have the side front pinned onto the front, using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance and a regular length stitch, I'm gonna start at the top, back stitch at the top, sew all the way down, and back stitch at the end. Once I do that, what I'm gonna do is finish off my seam allowance with my serger. I'm gonna, now in the instructions it says to press your seam allowance open. I'm going to be serging mine together, and then I'm gonna press my seam allowance towards my side front and top stitch. All right, so that's what I'm gonna be doing on mine. Do whatever you feel necessary for yours. So let's go ahead and do that now. All right, so now that I have my front and my side front lined up with 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, I'm gonna go ahead and back stitch. And so all the way down, making sure when you get towards the curve, you are moving slowly, okay? So go ahead and do that now. And now that I'm approaching the end, I'm gonna go ahead and back stitch, cut my threads, and voila, that's what I have. Now I'm gonna go ahead and serge it and press my seam allowance towards the side seam and top stitch. Let's go ahead and do that now. All right, so now that I am at the serger, what I'm gonna do is go ahead and serge the seam allowance. And that's what it looks like. So let's go ahead and press our seam allowance towards our side seam and give it a top stitch. All right, so one of the things I'm going to tell you about your top is make sure you are using a seam roll to press your seams. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna show you this time, but moving forward, I won't show you how to do this. But make sure this is your front right here on this side. This is your side front. Make sure you press your seams towards the side front, which is your pattern piece number 4. And just make sure you are pressing, all right? So go ahead and press your seam allowance towards the side seam now. So now that I have my seam allowance completely pressed to the side seam over here, let's go ahead and top stitch now. All right, so now that I have it pressed, what I'm gonna do is top stitch. Now I'm top stitching on my side front. So on my left side right here is my side front. This is my front. My seam allowance is pressed on this side to the side front. I'm gonna use the 1/4 of an inch little tick right here on my presser foot, and I'm going to top stitch all the way down. So I have my needle in, I have it on 2.5 inch stitch length, and I'm going to go ahead and back stitch and sew all the way down using a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. So go ahead and do that now. Now that I'm approaching the end, I'm gonna go ahead and back stitch, break my thread, and that's what my top stitching looks like on my side front. So let's go ahead to the next step, which would be to place on your left front band. So let's go ahead and do that now. Now, before we do our front band, we need to go ahead and finish off the front by pressing it under 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to create a basting stitch. And my basting stitch is going to be at about 5. And at 5/8, so line your bottom front, okay? So that's pattern piece number 1 with 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, and you're just going to create a basting stitch on the front. You should have a dot. I'm going to break my thread. Now all I'm going to do is I'm going to press this bottom in from the raw edge to the, basically creating a narrow hem. I'm going to press it in, okay, the raw edge to the line, and then I'm going to press in again. Now I'm going to leave 1 inch between the side seam and the front. So I'm going to leave 1 inch undone, and then I'm going to top stitch. So let's go ahead and do that now. Now I'm not going to show you how to do this portion because I feel like you could press and leave about 1 inch to where this part right here, about 1 inch, will not be pressed under. All right, so let's go ahead and do that now. All right, so now that I went ahead and top stitched, I went ahead and did a narrow hem, but I just basted it across. So I did not completely finish that, just to show you what that looks like. So it's just basted across there. So go ahead and move this off to the side and grab pattern piece number 3. So pattern piece number 3 is your left front band, all right? So now one thing I'm gonna tell you is whatever you just did for the front on the left, go ahead and do for the right. I'm gonna be doing at the same time to not have to run back and forth to the sewing machine, okay? So I have my other side done already, all right? So now grab pattern piece number 3, which would be your front band, all right? So what you want to do, now I'm gonna show you this, just like this, okay? So what you want to do is you have the front band. Actually, I need to turn it this way. All right. So you have your left front band. You should have cut 1 in interface. Now, of course, I told you mine is going to be interface after I shared all the pattern pieces. So what you have now is, now I did not make my dots for a reason because it may shift based off of me adding some, it may shift if you made any type of adjustment. Sorry about that. Had a little brain fart right quick. But anyway, what you're going to do is go ahead on this portion right here where you do not have the notches, right? You're going to create a 5/8 of an inch basting stitch, okay, all the way down. And then you're going to press. I have already done this, so I'm just going to show you with the paper. You're going to press in to that line at 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, okay? After you press, you're going to trim it down to 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. That's what I have already done right here, okay? So let me bring it up so you can see the basting line right here, okay? So you can see the basting. I basted, and then I trimmed down to 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, all right? So that's your front band. Do the same thing to your right band. This is your left front band. Do the same thing to pattern piece number 2, which would be your right band, all right? Now, I'm just working with the left side just to share with you what to do next, all right? So now what you're going to do is take your front and with right sides together, you're going to pin. Now, I'm working with the left front band, all right? So this is pattern piece number 1, pattern piece number 4, and pattern piece number 3, all right? So I'm working on my left front instead of my right, but you're going to do the same thing. So you're going to make sure, so let me share with you. You have a dot that goes to the bottom where the other dot is on the front of your blouse, all right? You also have notches. So make sure these double notches match up with the front of your blouse, all right? And then you're going to pin. Now, you're going to pin all the way down the front of your blouse. So pin your left front band to your blouse now, and then pin your right front band to the front of your blouse also. So go ahead and do that now. All right, so now that I have the left front band pinned to my front, Using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance and a regular length stitch, I am going to start at my hem where that dot is, okay? All right, so start at the dot, using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, back stitch at the dot, and then sew all the way up and back stitch at the end. Go ahead and do that now. All right, so now what we're going to do is starting at that dot, I'm gonna go ahead and put my needle in and put my presser foot down, and using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, I'm gonna go ahead and back stitch, go slow, back stitch, and then sew all the way to the top portion of the left front band to the front of your blouse now. Go ahead and do that now. And now as I'm approaching the top, I'm going to go ahead and back stitch. Cut my threads, and that's what it looks like. Go ahead and do your right band the exact same way now. All right, so now that I have the band attached to the front, what I'm gonna do is go ahead and trim it down just like so. If you are not comfortable using a rotary cutter, you can use your scissors, all right? Now, what you want to do is you want to go ahead and press your seam allowance towards the band. So make sure you press that towards the band. Now, I'm going to press mine in just a moment. But now what I'm going to do is take this and make sure I match it up and make sure that it's even. So once again, this front pressed edge, I'm going to match it up with this bottom edge and pin and sew across at 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, all right? So let me go ahead and pin that. Now I'm not gonna show you this on the sewing machine, but you're just going to pin this across and go across 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. Go ahead and do that now. All right, so now that I have the bottom stitched across, I trimmed it down, but left a little peak right here. So I just made kind of like an upside down L, as you can see, right? So now what I'm gonna do is take it, turn it right side, turn it right side out, or however you want to call it. All right, so I'm going to push that in just like that. Use my point turner and make sure I poke out that edge, all right? So the next thing you want to do is that press in need to go about 1/8 of an inch over your stitching line. And then I'm going to pin on the wrong side to baste to make sure it's catching. And then I'm going to top stitch on the right side or edge stitch on the right side, all right? So just go ahead. Now, I'm just going to kind of pin and then press it. And then I'm just gonna take my pins and put it on the right side. I don't wanna do the basting stitch and then turn around and have to edge stitch. So I'm just going to do mine on the right side, but this is what you would do if you're looking at the instructions. So you're just gonna take this pressed edge, go about 1/8 of an inch over that stitching line, not too much though. And you're going to pin all the way up, but I'm gonna say make sure you give this a good press before you stitch, all right? You wanna make sure that it's pressed really good before you stitch. And then pin all the way up, and you have the option of basting all the way down as close to the edge as possible. And then on the right side, you're going to edge stitch as close to the edge as possible, all right? So go ahead and do that now. All right, so now that I have my left front done, I'm gonna move this out of the way, grab your right front. Now, I am going to bring the instructions because I read these instructions and it doesn't make sense. I'm gonna say it makes sense, but doesn't make sense. So on step number 11, I'm gonna zoom it in so you're able to see it. Let me move this out of the way. I'm gonna zoom it in so you're able to see it, all right? So on step number 11, all the way down to 14, it doesn't make sense, all right? So on 11, and I have done this to show you guys, but it doesn't make sense, okay? And I wouldn't say that it's a typo, but it is a typo, okay? So on number 11, it wants you to take your outer edge and bring it to the first fold line. So I'm going to show you on the pattern what it's saying to do. And I'm going to do it a different way for the hidden placket. All right. So this is the top. So this is the top. This is the bottom. All right. So what it's wanting you to do is take your pressed edge. So let's just say that this is the pressed edge like this, right? It wants you to take that pressed edge, right? And what you're going to do with that pressed edge is bring it to the first outer line like this, okay? Then after you do that, you're supposed to make it like an accordion, right? Then after you do that, it wants you to bring that all the way over to the other outer line. Which now, here's the thing. If you bought that first press edge, which is now the wrong side, to the outer edge, when you stitch across, you're going to have this area showing the wrong side. So let me show you guys just again, all right? So this is the paper. So let's just play. I'm going to show you on the regular fabric, but let's just say this is the pressed edge. Let me just show you on fabric because I don't want you to get confused, all right? So I already have I'm doing it a different way. That's why the end is already done, all right? So this is the pressed edge, right? Like we did on the other one. What it wants you to do is take this pressed edge and go to that first outer line. That's where you have your center line or the outermost line, which you should have pressed, right? It wants you to do that and pin at the bottom. Then after you do that, you're going to take that and then fold it over again, right? All the way to the other outer edge, which is towards the front to meet that front edge, right? But when you stitch it at the bottom, you have a little bit of this wrong side showing when you turn it right side out. So I'm not doing it that way like it says in the instructions. So what I did, like I did the left one, what I did is took the pressed edge, come all the way over to the other outer edge, or you should say just right sides together, right? And stitched across using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance and then trimmed it down. After I trimmed it down, I went ahead and turned it right side out and gave it a press, all right? So now my center line, which is the middle line right here, the inner fold line. So now I have my pattern piece like this. I'm going to show you what you do. So now I have my pattern piece like this. This is the inner fold line. So if I'm looking at it from the inside, this is what it's looking like, okay? Good to go, all right? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and create my buttonholes. So I don't do a lot of hidden placket button-down shirts, but a good source, if you are confused to what I'm getting ready to tell you to do, is to use Simplicity 8889. Brittany J. Jones did the video for Mimi G when she had a hidden placket button-down shirt. I'm pretty much going to do the exact same thing for mine and then finish the construction after that, all right? So basically, what's going to happen now is I'm going to open this out. I'm going to put my inner fold line where the inner fold line is here. And then what I'm going to do is mark my buttonholes. All right. So I'm going to mark my buttonholes all the way down, making sure that the inner fold line is the same. All right. So I'm going to mark it and then make my buttonholes on here first before I go ahead and, before I go ahead and baste it. So I'm going to baste it first and then make my buttonhole. So I'm just going to put some pins here to make sure that this edge is about 1/8 of an inch over. And then I'm going to baste it and then make my buttonholes on the right side. All right. So go ahead and do that now. All right. So let me just recap what I did. So like I told you, I was doing it a different way than what the instructions said. So what I went ahead and did after I basted along this line, let me bring it up so you guys can see. I basted that pressed edge over like I shared with you. And then what I did was I fold this edge right here, the front edge, over, which is going to serve as my placket here in a second. I folded it over, okay? And after making my line, or my crease, I should say, I went ahead and made my buttonholes. That's what my buttonholes is looking like. You can definitely look at Brittany J. Jones' video where she did Simplicity 8889, which is actually a Mimi G button down top. You could do the same thing. That's basically how I did mine. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and put some fray check where my buttonholes, my 5 buttonholes are. And I'm not going to open up my buttonholes right this second. I'm gonna probably wait until later on tonight because today is Monday, October 21st. So I'm just going to probably wait until later on tonight or tomorrow morning and open up my buttonholes. All right. Now that I have this done, what I'm going to do is from the top where my middle crease line is, I'm just going to actually draw the line in with my white pencil. I'm going to create that line all the way down. And then I'm just going to stitch right on top of that and then pin my buttonhole placket behind it, okay? And then I'm gonna go ahead and switch out this basting stitch to a regular length stitch and baste across, all right? So let me go ahead and say that one more time. What I'm gonna do is I'm going to create a stitching line all the way down. Now I can just follow the crease all the way down, but I'm just gonna create a stitching line for myself all the way down. Using a regular length stitch, I'm going to stitch from the top up here all the way down to kind of, it's going to be like a breakup between where the buttonholes are and where it's going to fold at, okay? After I do that, I'm going to press it in just like this. Well, after I create that line, I'm going to change this basting stitch line right here to a regular stitching line. Basically just edge stitch right here between the front and the placket, okay? After I do that, I'm gonna press where my placket is and then baste across the top, all right? So let's go ahead and do that now. I'm gonna kind of share a little bit of it at the sewing machine. So let's go ahead and do that now. All right, so now that I have my placket area, you probably can't see the stitching line, but I'm just going to stitch. If you can't see it, I have my edge lined up with about 1.5 inches. So I'm just going to go ahead and back stitch there. Now I am going pretty slow to make sure it stays straight, okay? So go ahead and stitch all the way down the middle now. Now that I'm approaching the end, I'm gonna go ahead and back stitch. Cut my threads. And this is what it looks like. So let's go ahead and turn that to the inside and then just go ahead and edge stitch right here and take out the basting stitch. Let's go ahead and do that now. All right, so now that I went ahead and finished off this placket area, this hidden placket, it looks so good. I went ahead and basted across. It looks good. This is what it's looking like. I hope you guys could see that in the camera very well. All right, so go ahead and move your front pattern pieces, which I'm gonna show you the left one as well. So this is what our front pattern pieces are looking like, okay? Move both of these off to the side and grab pattern piece number 5, which is your back, all right? Now what I did, I have already done one of my darts to cut down on time. So the first thing you want to do is go ahead and stay stitch the neck area. So you go start at the shoulder and come to the center and then flip it over and starting at the other shoulder, come back to the center. So go ahead and do that, or you could wait until you do your dart and then cut down on how many times you go back and forth to the sewing machine, okay? Now, what I'm gonna do, this is the right side. I'm gonna flip mine into the inside. And what I'm gonna do is go ahead and take up this dart. Now, this is considered a fishtail dart. You probably can't see it because I used white, but I'm gonna zoom it in so you are able to see it. So for fishtail darts, what you do, you start at the center and sew to one end, and then start back at the center and sew to the other end. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to take it in and I'm going to match up the dots in the center. Make sure your centers are matching, your dots are matching, and just maneuver your fabric until you get a good match. All right. And I'm going to pin, and I'm going to go all the way down to this dot that I have right here at the very bottom. All right. So pin out your darts now on one side of your fishtail darts. So go ahead and pin out your darts now. All right, so now that I have it pinned from the center down to one side, all I'm gonna do is go ahead and start at the center, back stitch at the center, and sew all the way down. Do not back stitch at the end. Make sure you pull up some thread and tie it 2 or 3 times. Then what you're gonna do is flip it over after you do that. Start from the center and go all the way down to the end on the opposite side, opposite direction, all right? So go ahead and do your darts in your back now. All right, so now that I have my dart done in the back, now what you need to do is go ahead and press your dart towards the center. That's press it towards the inside, all right? So let's go over to the ironing station so we could go ahead and do that now. All right, so I have my seam rule, and what I'm going to do is go ahead and press my dart towards the center. So what you want to do is go ahead and move it over to the side like this, and put a little bit of steam and press it. So go ahead and do that now. All right, so now that I have it pressed, let's go ahead and attach our front to our back at the shoulder. So let's go ahead and do that now. All right, so now that I have my darts done, the next thing we're gonna do is attach the front to the back at our shoulder seams. Now, I want to show you something in the instructions. So I'm gonna grab the instructions, and we are on step number 18, all right? Now, on step number 18, I'm gonna try to zoom it in as much as I possibly can. I'm gonna put it up on the screen so you're able to see it. So on number 18, it says stitch back to front sections at shoulder. On number 19, it tells you to go ahead and start doing the collar. Now, my thing is this, it never tells you to attach the side seams in the instructions. So you're not gonna attach the side seams until you're on step number 27. However, I'm gonna say this now instead of later. You can go ahead and do your shoulder seams and your side seam at the same time if you would like. I'm going to be doing mine that way. However, because I am doing a sleeve band, I am not going to do my, I have to do my underarm seams, but I'm going to go ahead and sew my shoulder seams and my side seams together now before doing the collar, all right? So let's go ahead and do the shoulder seams and the side seams now. I'm gonna move that out of my way. Go ahead and grab your back pattern piece and go ahead and grab your front pattern pieces, all right? And with right sides together, we want to pin at our shoulder seams and our side seams, all right? So let me get the other one. And I know this is a really busy fabric, but it's super pretty. All right, so what I'm gonna do is match up our notches and pin all the way across both shoulder seams. So go ahead and pin across your shoulder seams now. All right, so now that I have the shoulder seams pinned, go ahead and pin your side seams. So all you need to do is match up the notches on the side and pin, and then pin all the way up and down your side seams, all right? So pin across your side seams now. Go ahead and do that now. Now that I have the shoulder seams and the side seams pinned using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance and a regular length stitch, back stitch at the beginning and at the end, sew across both shoulder seams and then finish off your shoulder seams and press your seam allowance towards the back of your garment. After you do that, go ahead and sew using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, back stitch at the hem, and then sew all the way up to the top portion of your side seam. Finish off your side seams and then press your seam allowance towards the back of your garment as well. All right, do that on both sides. Go ahead and do that now. All right, so now that I have the shoulder seams right here and the side seams done, if you want to top stitch, you can. I did not do that on my side seams. I may consider doing that towards the end. I did top stitch my shoulder seams right here, as you can see, but I did not do my side seam. I'm debating on if I want to do that or not. I'll do it. If I decide to do it, I'll do it after I insert the sleeves. All right, but this is what it's looking like. I'm going to turn it to the right side, and if I were you, I would definitely try it on right now, because you don't want to put the collar and the sleeves on if it doesn't fit. All right, so I would definitely try it on right now, see if it fits, if it's going to be too tight, if it's going to be too loose, what have you. All right, now I'm not going to do this on camera, but I feel like you could do this yourself. You need to go ahead and finish the hem all the way around. Now I'm going to let mine hang for 24 hours before I do my hem. So I'll be finishing off my hems tomorrow, along with my putting on my buttons and opening up my buttonhole placket. All right, so I'll do all of that later on tonight or tomorrow. All right, anyway, let's go ahead and move our top out of the way, our blouse out of the way. Grab your collar and collar band, which are pattern piece number 6 and pattern piece number 7. You guys have seen me do this before, but let's start working on pattern piece number 6 first, which is the collar. And you should have 2, with 1 being interface. You could tell from my dot that it's the wrong side. So make sure you have right sides facing. And what we're going to do is, with right sides facing, we're going to pin both sides and along the bottom. So go ahead and pin your collar pieces together now. All right, so now that I have my collar pin using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance and a regular length stitch, we're going to start at one end, back stitch at the beginning, so all the way down. Pivot at 5/8 of an inch, so all the way across the bottom, and then back up the sides. So go ahead and do that now. Back stitch at the beginning and at the end. Trim it down and then turn it right side out and give it a press. Let's go ahead and do that now. All right, so now that I have the collar done, I have it trimmed down and pressed, turned it right side out and pressed it. That's what the collar is looking like. Now grab pattern piece number 7, your collar band. You have one that's interface and one that's not. Now you guys have seen me do collars so many times, so it's pretty much the same. So what you're gonna do is take the collar band that's interfaced, all right? Put that down on the table. Now you're going to take your collar. The side that is not interfaced, which is this side right here, you wanna put that right on top, matching up the notches, all right? And then you're gonna pin. Now, I'm not gonna pin all the way across because you're gonna have to repin it, but I like to do this just to give you an idea. Now, you know your dots are going to meet up. You have a dot right here. You probably won't be able to see it simply because my purple is not showing up too well on camera. And then you have a dot over here as well. And I'm going to make sure that that match up with that dot. All right. Now, I just put 4 pins there, only because I'm going to have to repin it anyway. Now you're going to take the collar band that doesn't have any interfacing, okay? So what I did was I pressed up 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, okay? Now I'm going to trim it down to 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. So I'm just going to trim it down. All right, so now I have it trimmed down. All right, now I'm going to sandwich, it's called sandwich, your collar in between your collar band. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to repin, matching up the notches, repin that in place all the way across, all right? So go ahead and repin your collar band and collar section together. Now, making sure that your collar is sandwiched or in between your collar band. So let's go ahead and do that now. And make sure that your uninterfaced collar band, the bottom portion right here, is pressed up at the end as well, okay? You want that to be pressed up really nice. So go ahead and pin across your collar band section now. All right, so now that I have the collar sandwiched in between the two collar bands, now I'm going to start at this end and work really, really slow. I'm not gonna show you this on the sewing machine because I have 2 videos where I showed how to do a collar at the sewing machine. So I'm just gonna put both of those videos, which was Butterick 6947 when I did the sew along for that, as well as the collar that I did for Simplicity 9888, which was the dress. I'll put it up here so you're able to see that video as well. So both of those videos will be in the description box below on how to do a collar if you're interested, all right? So what I'm gonna do using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance and a regular length stitch, I'm gonna back stitch sew slowly around the curve, come all the way across and then back down and back stitch at the end, all right? Once I do that, I'm gonna trim it down and press the seam allowance towards the collar band, all right? So go ahead and do that now. All right, so now that I went ahead and attached the collar band to the collar, I went ahead and put in my label right here in the middle of the collar band that's not interfaced, all right? So this is what it's looking like. So now what we're going to do is go ahead and grab your blouse, and you want to turn it to where you're looking at the right side and your collar is up at the top, just like so. And then what we're going to do is we're going to attach right sides together, and we're going to place our collar onto our blouse. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna match up the dots. Now you probably can't see this, but the dots match up to your shoulder seams, okay? So I have a dot right here that matches up to my shoulder seams, all right? And you're going to pin. Making sure that you keep this one right here out of the way. Now I'm gonna bring this back simply because you should have some notches at the bottom. So match up your notches because this notch goes to this side right here. And you want to pin that. And then you should have a dot, and that dot goes to the front portion of your blouse. So make sure you are matching up those dots as well. All right. And sometimes it's harder to pin, but make sure that you pin it and it's not looking funky, okay? And then if you need to clip a little bit, you can clip to where it'll give, to where you're not pulling at your neck edge. All right, and then pin. So pin all the way across your neck edge now. Go ahead and do that now. If you need to clip, your blouse, you can, in order for it to give to where you're not pulling. So go ahead and pin all the way across your blouse now. All right, so now that I have the collar pinned all the way across, using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance and a regular length stitch, you're gonna back stitch at the beginning and sew all the way across. This is, if it was bothering you that it was upside down, I turned it right side out, all right? But you're gonna back stitch at the beginning and back stitch at the end. So using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, and then go ahead and trim your seam allowance down. Go ahead and stitch your collar onto your blouse now. All right, so now that I have the collar band attached to the blouse, the next thing you're going to do is go ahead and trim down that seam allowance, being sure that you do not have your collar or collar band tucked underneath. I like to put my hand underneath to make sure that there's nothing underneath that could accidentally get chopped off. All right. Now that I have that, I'm going to turn my blouse, and this is what I'm looking at. And what you want to do is make sure that your edge is about 1/8 of an inch over. Now you can pin on the right side. I like to pin on the inside and then base first and then top stitch afterwards. So I'm just going to pin this on the inside about 1/8 of an inch over that stitching line all the way across. All right. So go ahead and do that now. All right, so now that I have it pinned all the way across, what I'm gonna do is go to the sewing machine. Now, you do not have to baste it. You can pin on the right side and stitch in the ditch. You can do that. But for me, I like to be precise and I like it to look nice and neat on the inside and on the outside. I'm just gonna baste all the way across and then turn it over and top stitch all the way around. All right, so go ahead and do that now. All right, you guys, so we went ahead and finished our collar. It is looking good right now. So the next step is to do the sleeves and sleeve band. Now I have one on, and I'm just gonna tell you that today is day number 2 because I stopped last night after doing the collar and one sleeve, and I had to cook some dinner. So family comes first. Y'all know that about me. So this is day number 2. Today is, as you can see, October 22nd, and it is 7:18 in the morning. Yes, because I have some things to do today, lots of editing, and hope to get this edit for you guys by Sunday. And I don't know what day Sunday is. I think it's the 27th or something like that. But anyway, y'all not here for that. All right, so let's go ahead and go to the next thing, which would be the sleeves. Now, before I do the sleeves, because it's the next day, I'm gonna go ahead and open up my buttonholes. So if you are doing the same thing I'm doing, you go ahead and open up your buttonholes. I went ahead and opened up, I think 2 or 3 off camera. 3 off camera. So I'm gonna open up the other ones real quick. Now, if you're doing what I'm doing and opening it up with your seam ripper, I'm going to say definitely be careful. You don't want to rip any seam. So just be careful if you are using your seam ripper, all right? So my buttonholes are now open. Do not forget to do your buttonhole right here at the top as well. I still need to create that buttonhole there. So I'll be doing that after I do my sleeve, to finish it up as well when I get ready to do my buttons. All right, so this is what it's looking like. Let me show you the sleeve. So we're gonna put in a sleeve with a sleeve band. So that's what I'm gonna do now. So I'm gonna move my top or my blouse off to the side. Go ahead and grab pattern piece number 10, which are your sleeves and your sleeve band. So one thing I did was I went ahead and put a sticker on the wrong side. I think it came off, but this is the wrong side. I'm gonna put a new sticker there. All right, so the other one fell off, so I wanna make sure I have the right one. So we're just gonna put a new one there. Okay, and what I'm going to do, or what I have already done, I should say, I went ahead and created basting stitch along my sleeve cap from one notch to the other notch. I created the first one at 3/8 and the second one at 1/2 inch. And I did the same thing at the bottom between the 2 dots. So you have a dot here and a dot here. You need to create gathering stitches between the 2 dots. All right. Now, one thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and gather a little bit. You don't need to gather a whole lot. So I'm going to gather at the bottom where my sleeve band is going to sit, because when I fold it in half, it's already done for me to put onto my sleeve. So go ahead and do a little bit of gathering I like to do this before I attach the underarm seams, simply because I could adjust afterwards, okay? So just go ahead and create a little bit of gathers at the sleeve, the bottom of the sleeve going into your sleeve band. Then after you do that, the next thing you want to do is gather a little at the sleeve cap. Now, I like to do this now instead of after I sew it in half or sew the underarm seam, simply because I just feel like it's a little bit easier when you do it now versus when it's already kind of constructed. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and do a little bit of gathering right here at the sleeve cap as well. And if you need to gather some more, you can after you sew the underarm seam. All right, so now that I have that done, the next thing you want to do is sew your underarm seam. So with right sides together, you remember I have that dot to tell me the wrong side. So with right sides together, you want to match up those notches right here. There's a notch. So you're going to pin there, pin at the top, and pin along the inseam of your sleeve. Or your underarm seams, I should say, not inseam, underarm seams. All right, so I'm going to pin at the bottom and then pin along the underarm seam of my sleeve. So go ahead and pin now. All right, so now that I have the underarm seam, using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, backstitch at the beginning and at the end and finish off your seam. All right, and then after you finish off your seam, go ahead and once you finish it off, go ahead and turn it right side out. All right, now I'm gonna move my sleeve out of the way real quick. Grab your sleeve band. This will cut down on how many times you go to the machine. All right. First thing I want you to do is so this is the sleeve band, number 11. I have already done one, but you should have both of these interfaced, all right? So the first thing you want to do is create a 5/8 of an inch seam allowance or basting stitch on the side that does not have that notch, all right? Then you're going to press it up and trim down to 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, all right? So I'm gonna do that and come back and show you what it looks like. So go ahead and do your sleeves and then go ahead and create a basting stitch on your sleeve band, press up that basting stitch and then trim down to 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, all right? So let's go ahead and do that now. All right, so now that I have the underarm seams of the sleeve sewn, I have it completely finished off. I'm gonna turn my sleeve right side out. And this is what it looks like. Looks really, really nice. All right. Now what I'm going to do is grab my sleeve band. So just move your sleeve off to the side. I'm gonna move it off to the side. Grab your sleeve band and on that portion that I told you that did not have the notch, you needed to create a 5/8 of an inch basting stitch and then press to that basting stitch. Now what we're going to do is go ahead and trim down this sleeve band, that area that you just pressed up, to about 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. All right. Now give this another press. I'm going to press mine in just a moment. But what you want to do now is make sure that you do not have it pressed when you do this. But you want to put right sides together. All right. Match up those notches. And you're going to pin. All right, so you're gonna pin there, pin the top, and then I'm gonna pin at the bottom. Make sure that when you pin at the bottom, it is not pressed up, okay? So you don't want it to be pressed up. So pin at the bottom. Now, using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, you're gonna back stitch at the beginning and at the end and sew across, all right? And then press your seam allowance open. Go ahead and do that now. All right, so now I went ahead and did the underarm seams of the sleeve band. I went ahead and pressed up the bottom portion. So now grab your sleeve and you want to keep your sleeve band turned wrong side out. All right, so now I'm gonna turn it this way because this is that pressed edge. And what we're gonna do is slide it. So basically your sleeve is right side out. Your sleeve band is wrong side out. Now look how I'm putting it in there. You see this edge is going through like this. So raw edge, all right? Now what we're going to do is make sure that our underarm seam is matched up, okay? And make sure that your seam allowance is towards the back of your sleeve and not the front. So find where your two notches, your double notches are, and then that's where the back of your sleeve is. And then I'm going to pin on the inside instead of the outside. So I'm gonna pin the underarm seams there. Now I'm looking for the notch, okay? So look for the notch on your sleeve, all right? So just, I know you gathered, because I did. Now I'm gonna be looking for that notch, where that notch is. So find your notch. So I found my notch, it's right here. So I'm going to pin there, okay? Now the next thing you need to do is adjust your gathers to where it'll fit onto the sleeve band and not bunched up, okay? So I'm adjusting my gathers now, and then I'm going to pin all the way around, all right? So pin all the way around, adjusting your gathers as much as possible. So go ahead and do that now. All right, so now that I have it pinned all the way around, I'm gonna start at my underarm seam using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance and a regular length stitch. We're gonna back stitch at the beginning, so all the way around, and then back stitch at the end. After you do that, go ahead and trim down the seam allowance, all right? So let's go ahead and do that now. All right, so now that I went ahead and attached my sleeve band onto my sleeve, I'm gonna go ahead and trim it down, being careful not to cut through the stitching that you just attached the sleeve to the sleeve band. So go ahead and trim down your sleeve and sleeve band, that seam allowance. So go ahead and do that now. Now that I have it done, all right, I trimmed the seam allowance. I cannot talk this morning. I do apologize about that. But now that I have the sleeve and sleeve band done, I'm going to turn it wrong side out. And this is what it looks like. Make sure your seam allowance is pressed or pushed, I should say, pressed or pushed towards the sleeve band. All right, so make sure I'm moving out all my loose threads. All right, so make sure that it's pushed up towards the sleeve band. And then what we're going to do is we're gonna take that pressed edge right here, and we're gonna put it about 1/8 of an inch over this seam line, okay? All the way around. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do it all the way around. All right, now I'm going to pin on the right side of my sleeves. Now you can do a basting stitch first and then tack it with a regular stitch afterwards. Now me personally, I don't want to do that. I'm just going to pin on the right side all the way around, and then we're just going to stitch in the ditch, okay? So go ahead and pin your sleeve band to your sleeve about 1/8 of an inch over that stitching line, all right? So go ahead and do that now. All right, so now that I have it pinned all the way around, using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance and a regular length stitch, you're going to stitch in the ditch there, all right? So you know what to do there. The last step is to attach our sleeve to our blouse. So go ahead and grab your blouse, and what we're going to do, I'm gonna attach it all at once. That's why I just have it pinned. So now what I'm going to do is turn my sleeve right side out. Now, before I do that, let me go ahead and just do the sleeve band right quick, and then we're gonna attach our sleeve. So go ahead and sew all the way around now. Go ahead and do that now. All right, so now that I have the sleeve band completely done and pressed, grab your blouse, and now we're going to go ahead and put our sleeve and sleeve band onto our blouse. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to move everything out of the way and just have that side that the sleeve needs to be put in. I'm gonna have that on the table, just right here is what you're looking at. And what I'm going to do is grab the sleeve and with right sides together, making sure that your underarm seam for the sleeve is facing the back. The back would be where you have those double notches, okay? Whew, it's a struggle this morning, I do apologize. All right, so go ahead and pin your sleeve in place. So make sure you lining up your notches and your dots. So I'm gonna go ahead and pin that double notch right here. And if you need more pins, make sure you put more pins where you need it. I'm going to go ahead and match up the single notch in the front. Now you guys know I normally do the flat method when I put in sleeves, but because this has a sleeve band, I went ahead and did a set in sleeve. Now this is called a set in sleeve, all right? So that's what I did. Now that I have that bottom portion pinned, I'm gonna go ahead and flip it to the inside just like this. So now I could work with the inside of it. The next thing I'm gonna do is find the dot, okay? So I made a dot at the very top and it's right here. You probably could barely see it, but it's in purple. I'm gonna match that up with the dot at the very top, okay? So there's a dot, I'm sorry, that match up with the shoulder seam, all right? So match that dot with the shoulder seam and you're going to pin. All right, and then there's a dot right here. I matched that other dot there. And you're probably going to need to adjust and gather a little bit more if you need to, all right? So after I do that, the next thing I do is I go ahead and adjust my gathers where it needs to be adjusted at, okay? So I'm just gonna go ahead and adjust my gathers now to make sure my sleeve fit into my arm's eye, all right? So I need to pull up a little bit of gathers right here towards the back, all right? So I'm gonna adjust it now since I just pulled that up and I'm going to pin all the way around. Now that it fits all the way around, I'm just gonna pin all the way around. So go ahead and pin all the way around your sleeve to your arm's eye area or sleeve cap, whichever one you wanna call it. Go ahead and pin now. All right, so now that I have the sleeve pinned into my arm's eye, using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance and a regular length stitch, I'm gonna start at the underarm seam, back stitch at the beginning, so all the way around and back stitch at the end. After I do that, I'm gonna go ahead and finish off my seam allowance. So go ahead and do that now. All right, so that's it for this sew along. I went ahead and put the other sleeve in. It's looking amazing on this blouse. I love it, to be honest with you. So the only thing left for you to do is go ahead and put in your buttons. I think I want to use black buttons because these brown ones, to be honest, actually, I think I'm going to use the brown buttons because you're not going to see it either way, you know, and I don't really use brown buttons on anything. So I think I'm going to use the brown buttons because it's going to be a hidden placket anyway. I think I'm going to do that for the buttons. But that's it for this tutorial. If you make Simplicity 3002, so this is the pattern, 3002. I'm going to put it up on the screen. Do not forget to tag me on Instagram or here on YouTube in your creation so I could reshare. This is a shirt that would literally take you 5 hours to put together. Reason being is because that hidden placket does take a little bit of time, but including filming this entire sew along, it took me 4.5 hours to do. And that includes coming back today to finish it up. All right. So if you are planning on sewing this top in one sitting, it's going to take you about 4.5 to 5 hours to do. All right. And that's just going at the pace that I was going at, you know, to make sure that I'm filming everything. All right. Now, I get this question all the time. How do I store my PDF patterns? I'm going to put the link to the envelope in the description box below, but this is a 10 by 13 inch envelope from Amazon. I print out the front which is this, I believe this is page 1. On the instructions, I print this out. It gives me the picture of the pattern, the back of the envelope, and then I just use kind of like some packaging tape to tape the bottom, the top, and both sides onto there to where I could see it, all right? Now, one thing with PDF documents, if you are not familiar with Simplicity PDF documents, let me move the blouse out of the way real quick. If you are not familiar with PDF documents, you get like a page layout, all right? So mine came in 2 different files, letter files, and one thing that you have to mention is it's not going across, it's going down. So when you piece them together, the first page is the first page is the pattern envelope in the back of the envelope, all right? So page 2 all the way down is what you will need to put together. Now, one thing that I'm going to mention about doing PDF documents, make sure that you know what pattern pieces you need for your top, blouse, whatever you're making, okay? So what that means is basically, like I have a note here that says I need to do page 2, skip page 3 because I'm not going to need the cuffs or whatever. So make sure that you write your notes on here to where you're not printing out the entire document and you only need 5 pieces, right? So make sure you are mindful of that as well. But this is how I actually go about PDF documents. I make sure I look at all the pages and then see what pages that I need to alleviate how many pages I'm going to be printing out that I'm not going to need, all right? Well, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. And if you make Simplicity 3002, do not forget to tag me in your post at Rochelle.Handmade.Designs and just store your pattern pieces in the envelope like I have done so already. I'm going to go ahead and put my instructions back in the envelope as well. And then voila, I am completely done, and I will just file it with the rest of my PDFs. Well, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. Until next time. All right, so there you have it. That's the complete pattern review, behind the scenes, and the sew along. I hope you enjoyed. And if this video was educational, inspiring, and fun, you know what to do. Give me 2 double thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. Let's keep this discussion going in the comment section below. Tell me, would you make this pattern? Did I make this video as easy as possible to sew together? And what are some of the tips that you think I should include in upcoming sew-alongs? I would love to hear it. Well, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. Until next time, keep sewing.